everyone, and welcome to the Kleine Willem. Hello, Ali. I'm way over there, and that's over there. My name is Jitze, and together with all these lovely people, which you can't see probably, yeah?
I saw the room before, but I can't see the people. Well, but I can hear them.
Yeah! There are literally thousands and thousands of people here. And they're really eager to hear about your story and to learn from you. But first up, what are you doing in New York?
Quite honestly, I flew back yesterday morning unexpectedly, but that's a whole different story. But I love being in New York because there's just so much energy going on. And the US really is the land of opportunity. So for me as an entrepreneur, it is something I've always dreamt of, and I guess it's public information now that about 2 weeks ago we applied for a US banking permit. So exciting things going on there.
And I'm just checking with the technique that the clock isn't working, so I don't know, I can go on for hours, or otherwise you should turn it on. But glad you're back, and Ali is actually here backstage, so the truth is out. But Ali, please, I think you were shortly introduced, but can you take us back to the origins of bunq and how you started it?
Sure. Do you want the origins of bunq or the origins of Ali? Or both?
Oh, yeah, let's start with Ali. Yeah.
Okay, so I was born in Canada, Iranian parents. I lived in Canada, then I lived in Iran for a couple of years. Then I moved to the Netherlands, to the lovely city of Gouda, or Gouda, famous for the cheese. I started coding when I was 9. I started investing in stocks when I was 12, and I started my first business, as the intro said, at the age of 16. My first big business was TransIP at the age of 21.
Hold on. What was the business at 16?
I'm a dinosaur by now. So at my age of 16, computers still needed to be assembled. So you could buy the parts and then assemble them and then make a computer. And because I was just so much into hardware, it was all magical for me to create things and to build stuff. Basically, it was like advanced Lego. I started my own computer shop at the age of 16, and because I was still going to high school, I had to do it online, and so a couple of years later, I started a web hosting domain name cloud company called TransIP that I hope many people in the audience will know.
Probably. And this is
so that was age of 21,
then I start young. Sorry, go on.
Then I co-founded the data center group. Then I wrote a book. It's called Ondernemers hebben nooit geluk. It's in Dutch, rookie mistake. If you write a book, write it in English. That's my lesson learned there. And then I founded bunq.
And as we look at the current affairs, ING just said the first quarter of this year, a 270% increase of profit. How's bunq doing?
bunq is doing amazing. So we cannot disclose how much more profit, because last year we were loss-making. But we did disclose that last quarter already we became profitable, and I foresee that bunq will have a very good year indeed. Now, not as good as ING, because we tend to give more interest to our users at 2.01%. So if anyone in the audience is like, hey, I'm losing out, sign up. In 5 minutes you can do savings in bunq. But yeah, it's looking great. I'm very satisfied.
Yeah, and I was also saying that because of this is one of the things that the news items I'd say you started bunq for in say 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think we officially registered in November 2012. But we launched in 2014, 15, I think. Yeah.
And this was in reaction to the big banks who, according to you, weren't customer-centered enough, yeah?
Yeah, so the startup bunq is actually the end of my role as it was at TransIP, and also the start of the financial crisis. So two things came together. TransIP was doing really, really well, and we had a lot of talent, and I felt like I didn't want to be the guy sitting on a throne, keeping everybody under, so I stepped aside so that talent could take over and show me that they could do an equally, if not better job. And they showed me, by the way, because TransIP has only grown really big after my departure. So, you know, my hat's off to them. It's for 99% thanks to them, not to me. But then I had a lot of time on my hands, and I figured, okay, what do I do now? You know, it didn't really feel like buying a boat and lying on the beach, although sometimes I wish I did. But anyway, at the time, I thought that would be a dumb thing to do. So I started writing a book on everything I had experienced and all the things that I had learned for, and that book was called Ondernemers hebben nooit geluk, which I just mentioned. And while writing the book, I understood that what I really like to do as a human being is create products that people love to use, and I like to make a change in the world for the better. And so when the financial crisis arose, and you know, everybody was playing the blame game, and everybody was trying to assess who was to blame by how much and whose fault it was, I thought, well, you know, that's all nice and dandy, but shouldn't we be thinking about how to prevent the next financial crisis? And to us, the reason of the financial crisis was that the banks were too uniform. There was no diversity in the product offering. There was no diversity in the business model. There was no diversity in the way of thinking. And so if there would ever be a crisis that one bank would be affected, all of the banks would be affected. And because there was no choice, the bunqs also weren't very consumer-centric, because, I mean, there's nothing to choose anyway, so why do your best? And that was the reason that we started bunq.
And by the way, who raise your hand if you're a bunq customer? Ali can see you. Oh, there.
That I would like to see.
I will take a picture immediately.
Oh, yeah.
And make sure you get it. Raise your hands. And I will get you the names and addresses of all the other people who didn't raise their hands. And later on, you'll get a chance to ask your questions. So think about that already. And Ali, I listened a lot to your voice the last couple of days with the numerous podcasts you've been interviewed at. And what struck me, that's I hear you tell this story and why you thought I'm gonna do my own bank. Did you at any point thought this is impossible? There are three major players, and it's really impossible to get in between.
No, I never felt that.
How? Why is that? How is that possible?
Well, you know, this is a very interesting question, because I think I've been giving interviews for, I think, 10 years now, and I've never had this question. So you know, applause for you. You're very creative. I do not know. It's just, yes, well done. I don't know. It just honestly never crossed my mind.
Okay, then
I knew it would be difficult, but I don't think anything is impossible.
Let me try two angles to see if we can dive into that, because at Dutch Innovation Days we also want to know, how are these magic minds made up? I thought you're either really optimistic or really, really sure about yourself.
Or maybe a bit naive.
People agree in the
and
audience.
And maybe a hopeless romantic. Probably.
Yeah? Elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I think it's a part of what we say in Dutch, the maakbare wereld. I think the world is what it is because we made it into what it is. I think, save for the laws of physics. Everything else is basically a choice. So if we don't like the way it is, it's not like, and without starting a debate about religion, but it's not like there's a God sitting on a throne saying, okay, we all must drive on the right-hand side. We all must drive 100 kilometers an hour. It's all this stuff are things that we made up ourselves. So if we don't like it, all we need to do is change it. So coming from that mindset, nothing is impossible.
No,
Define gravity, that's impossible.
You have to add something else, because let's shortly about me. I'm like the opposite. I think the same as you, and then I think, yeah, but a bank or even getting a computer together, that wouldn't work for me. So what makes you that you think, yeah, I can do that. I can do that better than ING, ABN AMRO, and all the others?
Because I think in the core, once you understand the problem, the solution is always simple. I've never come across a problem that didn't end up having a very simple solution. Even Einstein's relativity theory, if you read it, it's just basic geometry in the end. This is really cool. So it has turned into this really complicated, but the thing, I think, I'm not comparing myself to Einstein, by the way, before everybody thinks I'm just dick and who's arrogant. That's not the point. My point is that even the most complex problems always have a simple solution, and all you need to do is spend time and energy and effort to really understand what the problem is. The difficulty, the reason why you think assembling a computer is impossible is not because assembling a computer is impossible, but because you haven't spent enough time and energy to understand what makes it so difficult.
Let's dive
so
in that.
The problem hasn't become simple yet.
Let's dive in that in a minute, but I promise two angles. One is your self-assurance, optimism, maybe naivety. The other one is maybe the background you started with, coming from your parents, going from Iran to Canada, you here. That always challenges you to make something of yourself within very different circumstances. Do you think that plays a role as well?
100%. 100%. Because I believe, and I see, so I have a lot of friends, both international as well as national. And there is a difference I've noticed with people who at a young age have been moving around, because they have learned intuitively from a young age that not everything is given. So they understand that everything is a choice, because Canada is cold, Iran is warm, Netherlands is wet. Iranians are very warm and passionate. The Dutch are very precise and dependable. Genetically, there's no genetic difference, right? So this is because people chose to be this way. And in doing so, it becomes clear that basically everything is a choice. You can be whatever you want to be.
Thank you for that inspirational answer. I can see, I grow from it. But let's dive now into the simple solution for the banking system. 9 years ago, you thought this can be done better. There's a simple solution for this enormous complexity. And I think it started with building it around the customer. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, well, so there's two things. So the solution of the sector, to solve an inherently unstable sector, what you need to do is bring diversity. We know this from nature. You cannot have a super bank that is, immune to everything. That doesn't exist. There is no super crop. There is no, the only way to solve this is by having diversity, so that when adversity happens, some banks survive, some banks die. That is the way of the world. We know this. This is the core of nature, survival of the fittest. This is the core of capitalism, which has turned into a filthy word or a word with a connotation that is maybe not as optimistic, but I would really strongly like to implore people to think of the alternative, which is communism, you know. So capitalism, freedom of choice, etc. The marketplace, you as a consumer should be empowered to do what it is that you want to do. And banking, in fact, because of the heavy regulation, borders to communism, centrally organized, dogmatic, strongly regulated, not based on what consumers need and wants are, not based on what you're spending. So not giving you the keys of the car, but based on political decisions. So if we want the sector to be safe, what we need is to put you, the consumer, back in charge, and in doing so, offer a great range of banks that then indeed sometimes might fail. That is the way to create a stable sector. So that was our conviction then, that is our conviction now. And then our place in that playing field is a bank that puts the users front and center in everything we do. We understand for our user group, we call her Ava, that is our persona. She's a digital nomad, she lives in the bigger cities in Europe. We understand very well what is important to her. We understand how we can make her happy, we understand what she needs, and we do everything we can. We go out of our way to make sure that she is happy. So that is our piece of the bigger pie, if that makes sense. So it's, the answer is twofold.
Yeah, that does make sense, and you can also see why the bigger banks can't do that anymore. Because if you then
exactly.
So is then the future of banking is several smaller banks targeted at really specific audiences that they know really well?
I think the future of the banks should be several smaller banks that focus on, but I don't believe the future of banks is several. I believe the future of banks is what we have seen today. Three large banks in Europe. Slowly over time, this will turn into three large banks in the Netherlands will slowly turn into 5 or 10 large banks in Europe, because I don't see all this regulation go away anytime soon, which means we will have bigger and bigger systemic risk, which you now also, by the way, see manifest in the US, where exactly the same thing is happening again.
Yeah, but that's how, because you're been called the disruptor of the banking system, the one that will do it differently. And how do you see your role then within, if there's 5 to 10 European banks?
Well, the second best thing of having a fully diverse and open marketplace is having a marketplace that is being threatened by challengers. So our existence, and you can see that in the Netherlands already, before we came to market, in the 4 years before that, the app development of banks was nearly zero because it was good enough and they were all shitty, but they were equally shitty. So people didn't, you know, if there's nothing better, nobody moves, and there was no new player anyway. So the tart was verdeeld. The pie had been sliced up and divided. But because we came, especially when we came to market, there was so much fear that we, you know, our presence, first bank in 35 years, and resources were shifted and were changed and started to focus on app development. And if you compare the 4 years after bunq launch of the ING app, of the Rabobank, who, by the way, I think I'm pretty much convinced literally copied the color scheme and our buttons, but anyway, of the ABN AMRO bank.
Just a side note, yeah.
You know, who stole Tiki from us, right? Tiki, we had
really?
Payment requests, before, and Tiki was launched after that. So if you compare that before and after bunq was there, you will see a big difference. So I see our role of truly understanding our users, catering to their needs, and in doing so, forcing the bigger players to at least keep up.
And has that shifted from when you came in and you thought, I'm going to really change the system? Or is this the slow pace when you change it?
We have changed the system because we have changed the system in front of the scenes and also behind. We have changed the system because by getting that banking permit, we proved to everyone that it was possible to apply for a banking permit. After us, some other neobanks also applied for a banking permit. I mean, N26, etc. They all got their banking permit after us. In doing so, we, together with the regulator, figured out how you can allow a new bank to enter the market safely. That process that we figured out is now applied Europe-wide. We changed things because our presence proved to the big guys, hey, you're big today, but if you want to stay big, you need to pay some attention. We changed things because of our product development that we do years in advance of the big banks, slowly gets copied to the big banks. I gave some examples just now. We changed the sector because, as you know, we had this gigantic lawsuit against the Dutch central bank, which none of the big guys did, but we did in the best interest of you, of keeping your money safe. We were the only ones who had the balls, I'm sorry for the usage of the word, to pick up the glove and fight. So we are doing exactly what I dreamed, what I wished, what I hoped we would do.
And have you ever, in those, going back to your optimism assurance, you called it nativity, was it were you naive in a sense that if you expected all this heavily regulations, all this fighting you had to do, the balls that you need to have, excusez le mot again, were you naive in that sense, that you couldn't have predicted that?
Well, I knew it was going to be tough, but it turned out to be a lot tougher than I thought. And it turned out, to be a lot tougher than I thought.
And then this is my last question, then I will turn to the audience, but if you have the experience of the last years, the maturity, you're no longer naive, how do you look at the next 10 years for bunq?
Well, I think, so bunq is doing so incredibly well. I had a very dear friend on the phone this morning, and it had been some time since we had caught up, and he was like, how are you doing? And I was like, I'm so proud of the people at bunq. We're doing so, I mean, the product is great. We're growing very quickly. We're growing internationally. We're delivering value to our users. We're doing stuff that nobody else is doing. We're profitable. We're here to stay. We have so many great people. My work hours have been reduced from about 90 to 100, which I did for many, many years, for which I guess I'm well known, to about 15 to 20. I don't work a lot because I like to work a lot. I worked a lot because it was necessary given the time and space at the time. I am so incredibly proud of all the people at bunq and all the amazing things that they're doing. And I'm just, I'm like a proud dad, Thank you.
Really good to hear, and also that you now maybe have time for that boat of that nice lying on the beach. We have two people in the wings to deliver a mic. Anyone with a question for Ali? Yeah, here in front. Can you reach him, Cariel? And don't hand out the mic, just hold it in front of him. Otherwise, he'll keep it.
Mine now. In the beginning, you said that you're now in New York because the United States is the land of opportunity, and you also said that everything is a matter of choices. Yeah. What are the choices that Europe and Europeans could make to be the same kind of land of opportunity and to have more innovative companies like bunq?
That is a great question. Sorry, what's your name? I didn't catch your name.
Chris.
Chris, thank you, Chris, for a wonderful question. I think all we need to do is just one thing, and that is change our mindset. And I've thought about this long and hard because, I mean, ultimately, the people who are in the US today are basically Europeans of 150 years ago, right? So how come that this country, and I guess for anyone who's ever been there, you'll notice two things. One, that it's a giant mess. The infrastructure is a mess. Healthcare is a mess. Buildings are a mess. Everything is a mess. Yet they are by far the biggest. They do incredible things. Your mobile phone is American, despite the fact that we have Nokia and Siemens. Cars are now Tesla, despite the fact that we had Audi and whatever else. Everything is American. And why is that? That is because the mindset is different. Everybody who went to the United States, they knew what they were getting into. And so there was a natural selection of people who are into risk-taking. They knew they were going somewhere where nothing would be granted to them, nothing would be given to them. They had to be their own savior. They had to do things. And that mindset is still there today. The optimism is there, the risk-taking is there, the big ideas are there, you know, colonize Mars, whatever, all these ideas come from there because those are the people we have there. Opposite to that, the exact opposite to that is the Netherlands. What do you see when you visit the Netherlands? A clean, healthy, pristine state, everything is taken care of, you know. And I noticed that if there is, so I saw this person in a wheelchair in New York, and of course the side curb wasn't built properly and the wheelchair couldn't get on the side curb, right? What happens is, just two passersby, they asked that person, hey, can I help you? They helped him on the side curb. What would happen in the Netherlands is we would call the government and say, hey, you know, you need to fix this shit. And I think that's the difference in mindset.
Yeah, and yet also this is where banking crises are born. But we'll not go into that for now. Thank you for your question, Chris. Great, and thank you for your answer, Ali. Anyone else? In the back as well? You're also allowed to raise your hand. We can get there. Yeah, the gentleman here with the lovely beard. What's your name and where are you from?
Hi, I am Abdurrahman. Thank you, Ali, for the great presentation or getting to know you. During your speech, you talked about that you are not really competing like the big players like ING or ABN AMRO, but at the same time you want them to raise the bar. And then you said you're doing quite well with like your profitability and all these things, you're so happy. So do you see that bunq might actually become to the point where it's eating the big players, and do you have these ambitions? And if yes, is your goal is just to raise the bar or also to compete with them?
Thank you, Abdul Rahman, for a great question. I think my strong conviction, and this has been my conviction for many, many, many years. You can even read it in the book I mentioned, and that's like 14 years ago, back when I didn't have gray hairs and, you know, I was still more naive than I am today. I believe that if you build it, they will come. I believe if we do a great job, if we understand our users, if we build a great product that they love to use, they will come. The profitability is not a goal, but a consequence of building a fantastic product. And I believe that if we continue to listen to our users and build a product that nobody else can, because nobody else is spending so much time on understanding what's going through the hearts and minds of their users, as bunq is. Slowly over time, in other markets more quickly because they're unregulated, but in banking, slowly over time, the financial success and the size success will come.
Thank you. Thank you, Abdel, for your question. Anyone else here in front of us? Will? And there's in the back as well? Raise your hand again? Yeah. We'll go there next. Can the other mic go to way in the back, the guy in the white shirt? Yeah, please, here in front.
Hi, Will here. You mentioned again and again that you want to do things differently, really aiming at the end user. Sometime before, I think it was just before bunq started, we had also a bank in the Netherlands that wanted to be a different bank, Knap, bank spelled reversely. In the end, they gradually became, they started to do things differently, but in the end, they became just another rather poorly functioning bank. How does bunq, how do you think that bunq can remain different and keep that attitude of challenger bank, even if you grow a bit bigger?
Thank you for a great question, Will. I think, you know, from the outside, it might appear that Knap was an outsider and they wanted to do things differently. And I think they probably would have if they would have remained independent. Now, I think it's important to note that Knap was part of a much bigger concern. They were funded by a bigger concern. They had to be aligned and in line of the risk profile and all the corporate things that come with a bigger concern. And I think that is the answer. Bunq is independent. We went through the hard route. We got our own banking permit. We have our own banking systems. We do not rely on anyone. And so I hope until my last breath, we will remain the way we are: independent, user-facing, and value-adding for our users.
Okay, thanks, Ali. Thanks, Will, for your question. In the back, sir.
So, hi, my name is Bram. I have a question about KYC, know your customer. I think you're familiar with that. It's like
Yes.
regulations. How do you think these kind of regulations, are they standing in the way of innovations, or what is your point of view on that?
Thank you for your question, Ram. So it's both. So they spur innovation because having that industry of KYC and AML by itself is now an industry, and obviously there's a lot of innovation going there, as we, that's the whole lawsuit thing. At the same time, they do raise the bar for being a bank or for being any other company or payment service provider that has to comply with those regulations. So it's a bit of both. Now, maybe the question might be, do I agree with our approach? Well, I think that's up for a longer debate.
Okay. Yeah. We have time for one more. Was there one more question? I thought, yeah. Yeah, the lovely lady over here. Yeah. People are running with microphones. Run, run, run.
Okay. Perfect. Hi, Batul here. First of all, I would like to thank you for your talk. Interesting, really. My question is it feels like you're doing really human-centered design on your bank. You're creative and you're really solving the problems that are actual. I guess you're really continuously doing your research about what your customer really needs. Could you tell us something about that process, or does it exist? Yeah, that's the question actually.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That is, I love that question. It's product-centric, and I just love our product, and I love products. Yes, I think we are doing something that is called human-centric design. If only I would have finished my university study, I might have been better at it. But the way we do it is really the tone at the top makes a lot of difference. So most of the things we do at bunq is everybody's kind of encouraged and expected to do a couple of user tickets per week everywhere in the company. And just by doing so, I do them myself as well, by the way. And in doing so, different people stay in touch with the end user, and they get inspired, and they are like, and I've seen this happen over and over again, like our chief risk, Itzhard, he is, I don't know, 62 years old or something. He was doing some user tickets the other day, and he was like, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. And he changed the policy, and it made lives easy for a number of users. So that is one thing we do. The other thing we do is we have, it's not, there's no magical bullet, right? So it has to do with what you put your focus on. So we do user group testing, we do beta launches, we do prototyping, we do all the stuff that you would expect to do. I don't think that anything that we're doing by itself is special. I think that we have the discipline of keep doing it that makes it special and makes it work.
Okay, she said thanks. I didn't know if you heard it, but thank you for your question.
Very well.
And this is unfortunately all we have time for. Thank you so much, Ali, for sharing your insights and wisdom. And I think we all can take home here for this weekend that everything is possible if you set your mind to it, even your own bank. Ali Niknam.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.